Ever think about what might go bump in the night at your local McDonald's? You sent us some truly creepy stories about paranormal encounters at the Golden Arches, and let me tell you, some of these had me sleeping with the lights on.
What's fascinating is how many of these stories center around seemingly ordinary McDonald's locations.
Right?
It's not haunted castles or graveyards,
Yeah.
but places we associate with burgers and fries that become the backdrop for these unsettling events.
Exactly. It's like the paranormal is hiding in plain sight.
Right.
Our first stop takes us to a McDonald's in Mexico, where an employee reported some seriously spooky stuff.
Okay.
This particular McDonald's is rumored to be built on a site where a tragic construction accident happened, and several workers lost their lives.
This ties into a key concept in paranormal research, the idea of place-bound spirits.
Okay.
Sometimes if a traumatic event occurs, the energy of that event can become imprinted on the location, almost like a recording.
Like a ghostly echo.
Yeah, like a residual haunting.
So what kind of things were happening at this McDonald's?
Well, the employee described objects moving on their own in broad daylight.
Okay.
Disembodied screams echoing through the restaurant.
Wow.
And get this.
Yeah.
Children reported seeing a legless man floating in a pool of blood.
Whoa, that's intense.
Yeah.
And definitely not something you'd expect to see at a McDonald's, even on Halloween.
Exactly. These details go beyond your typical ghostly encounter.
Right.
This isn't just a cold spot or flickering lights.
Yeah.
We're talking about vivid, disturbing apparitions that seem to be interacting with the physical environment.
Okay, so we've got a potentially haunted location, possibly due to a tragic past event.
Right.
But not all paranormal encounters are tied to specific places.
Right. Our next story takes us to another McDonald's in Mexico, this time in a small town.
Okay.
An employee there described encountering a very strange customer. He was a tall, pale man dressed in old-fashioned clothing, carrying an antique briefcase.
That's a bit unusual for a McDonald's, isn't it? Did he order anything?
That's the thing. He just sat there staring at the employee with intense black eyes. Didn't order anything, didn't speak, just stared.
Creepy. I'm already getting the chills. What happened next?
As the employee approached the man's table, they started feeling physically ill, dizzy, nauseous, and there's a foul smell in the air.
Oof, that's awful. Did they try to talk to the man?
They were about to, but when they got closer, he vanished. Poof, gone.
He just disappeared, like into thin air.
Exactly. And when the employee asked their coworkers about the man, they all insisted he never existed.
So we're not talking about a place-bound spirit here. This sounds more like an apparition, a ghostly figure that appears and disappears at will.
That's one possibility.
Right.
But the physical symptoms the employee experienced are also interesting.
Right.
The dizziness, nausea, the foul odor, these could suggest something more than just a visual apparition.
Yeah.
Some researchers believe that certain entities can actually drain energy from people, causing these kinds of physical reactions.
Whoa, that's pretty intense. Like a psychic vampire hanging out at McDonald's. I'm definitely going to be paying closer attention to my fellow diners from now on. But you know, those two stories were in Mexico. Is there something about that culture that makes it more prone to paranormal activity?
It's not necessarily about one culture being more prone to paranormal activity than another.
Okay.
These stories come from all over the world, and many cultures have their own beliefs and folklore surrounding ghosts and spirits.
Right.
But what's interesting is how these experiences often manifest in familiar settings,
Yeah.
like a fast food restaurant.
Right.
It's the juxtaposition of the ordinary and the extraordinary that makes these stories so compelling.
Speaking of familiar settings turning creepy, our next story involves a figure we all know, Ronald McDonald himself.
Ah, yes, the clown that haunts everyone's dreams.
Well, this story might turn that dream into a nightmare. A former employee from 1997 described seeing the Ronald McDonald statue in the play place come to life.
Wow.
They said they saw the clown playing on the slide before returning to its statue form.
The image of Ronald McDonald coming to life taps into a primal fear many people have. Clowns.
Yeah, clowns can definitely be creepy. But why would a statue of Ronald McDonald suddenly come to life? Do you think there's some kind of energy attached to these corporate mascots? Something that could attract paranormal activity?
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
It's possible that these mascots, being so widely recognized and imbued with a certain energy from advertising and popular culture, could act as a conduit for paranormal phenomena.
Right.
It's almost as if the collective fear or fascination we project onto these figures could give them a life of their own, at least in the paranormal realm.
Think about how many kids have had their birthday parties at McDonald's.
Right.
How many happy memories are associated with that brand? Maybe that energy combined with the fears some people have of clowns creates a kind of paranormal cocktail that brings Ronald to life, so to speak.
Exactly. It's a fascinating idea, isn't it? That
Yeah.
the very things we create to entertain and delight can also become the source of our deepest fears.
If you're finding this exploration of McDonald's and the paranormal as intriguing as we are, be sure to follow our channel. You won't want to miss what comes next. Now, our next story takes a bit of a darker turn, and it might hit a little too close to home for some listeners. A female employee described a regular customer who would stare at her constantly, giving her the creeps.
This is where the line between the paranormal and the psychological can get a little blurry.
You're telling me this employee later saw the same customer watching her from across the street outside her home. She was so freaked out she called the police.
While this story might not involve ghosts or spirits in the traditional sense, it highlights the very real fear and violation that can be associated with stalking.
Right.
And it's a reminder that sometimes the most unsettling experiences are caused by other human beings.
Absolutely. It's a chilling reminder that we should always trust our instincts when it comes to personal safety.
Right.
If something feels off, it probably is. And if you're experiencing something like this, don't hesitate to reach out for help. There are resources available to support you.
Well said. Now are you ready for our final story? This one takes us back to the play place, but it involves something far more perplexing than a playful Ronald McDonald statue.
Let's hear it. I'm all ears, but honestly, a part of me is afraid to know what might be lurking in those tunnels and ball pits.
This story involves a 7-year-old boy who disappeared from a McDonald's play place.
Okay.
He was gone for 4 days.
4 days? That's terrifying. What happened?
He reappeared in the ball pit late one night, claiming it was still the day he went missing.
Wait, he had no memory of those missing 4 days. That's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Exactly. It's a case of missing time, a phenomenon often associated with alien abductions or other unexplained disappearances. But in this case, it happened in the most unlikely of places, a McDonald's play place.
So we've gone from haunted locations and ghostly apparitions to a possible case of time travel or a dimensional shift, all within the familiar setting of McDonald's. It's like those golden arches are a portal to another dimension.
Or perhaps it's simply that these places, with their constant flow of people and energy, act as a kind of amplifier for paranormal activity.
Food for thought, right? I wonder what our listeners think about all this.
Me too. Hopefully they're not too creeped out to finish their fries. It's a wild ride, isn't it? We've gone from ghostly figures to potential psychic vampires to Ronald McDonald coming to life, and now a possible time slip in a McDonald's play place.
Right. You know, it's interesting how all these stories took place at McDonald's. I mean, it's not exactly the first place you'd think of when you think of paranormal hotspots.
That's what makes it so intriguing, isn't it? It's the unexpectedness of it all. We associate McDonald's with happy meals and birthday parties, not with ghosts and unexplained phenomena. But perhaps that's what makes these stories so unsettling. They tap into our sense of the familiar, the mundane, and then twist it into something uncanny.
Like a glitch in the Matrix, but with chicken nuggets and fries.
Exactly. And it makes you question, are these isolated incidents, or is there something about McDonald's itself that attracts these kinds of occurrences?
Maybe it's the sheer number of people who pass through those doors every day.
Yeah.
All that energy, all those emotions. Maybe it creates a kind of psychic residue that attracts paranormal activity.
That's a theory some researchers have put forward.
Right.
They suggest that places with a high concentration of human activity can become more susceptible to paranormal phenomena.
Right.
It's almost as if the veil between our world and the other side is thinner in these places.
Which would explain why so many of these stories involve employees. They're the ones who are there day in and day out, exposed to all that energy.
Precisely. And it's worth noting that many of these employees were initially skeptical of the paranormal.
Right.
They didn't go looking for these experiences. The experiences found them.
Which lends a certain credibility to their accounts, would you say?
Absolutely. When people who are generally grounded and practical report these kinds of encounters, it makes you pay attention.
It definitely makes you think twice about where you get your next burger and fries, doesn't it?
Perhaps. But ultimately, I think these stories invite us to consider the possibility that there's more to our world than we can see or understand. They challenge our assumptions about reality and remind us that there are still mysteries out there waiting to be explored.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And hey, if you're enjoying this exploration into the paranormal side of McDonald's, make sure to hit that follow button. We've got a lot more deep dives into the unknown coming your way.
Now let's go back to our original question. Are these stories simply spooky tales, or could there be something more to them?
What do you think? Are we dealing with genuine hauntings, psychic phenomena, or simply the power of suggestion?
I think it's a combination of factors. Some of these experiences might have perfectly rational explanations, misperceptions, pranks, even just plain old coincidence. But others, well, they defy easy categorization. They leave you with a lingering sense of wonder and a healthy dose of skepticism.
And that's okay, right? It's okay to acknowledge the unknown, to embrace the mystery.
Absolutely. In fact, I think it's essential. It's what keeps us curious, it's what drives us to explore, and it's what makes life a little more interesting.
Well said. But I have to ask, after hearing all these stories, do you still feel comfortable eating at McDonald's?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I might be ordering takeout from now on. But hey, at least I'll have some good stories to tell while I'm waiting for my food.
Me too.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe we'll even inspire some of our listeners to share their own McDonald's mysteries with us.
I hope so. After all, the more we share our experiences, the closer we get to understanding the strange and wonderful world we live in.
So what does this all mean for our listeners who are bravely venturing back into a McDonald's for their next Big Mac fix? Should they be looking over their shoulder for ghostly customers or worrying about Ronald McDonald joining them on the slide?
I wouldn't say they need to be worried, but it's always good to be aware of your surroundings and trust your instincts.
Right.
If you feel a sudden chill or an unexplained sense of unease, it might be worth paying attention to.
Like that little voice in the back of your head saying, maybe I should skip the play place today.
Exactly. But on a more serious note, I think these stories highlight the importance of keeping an open mind. We live in a world where we try to explain everything through logic and reason,
Yeah.
but there are still mysteries out there that defy our understanding.
It's like that saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And maybe that's okay. Maybe embracing the unknown is part of what makes life so fascinating.
Absolutely. It's that sense of wonder, that curiosity about the world around us that drives us to explore and learn. And who knows, maybe one day science will catch up with these unexplained phenomena and we'll have a better understanding of what's really going on.
Until then, we'll just have to keep sharing these stories and pondering the possibilities.
Right.
It's like we're all part of a giant paranormal investigation, piecing together the puzzle one strange encounter at a time.
I like that analogy. And remember, everyone has a story to tell.
Right.
So if you've ever had a strange or unexplained experience at a McDonald's or any other place for that matter, we want to hear about it.
Absolutely.
Share your stories in the comments, and who knows, maybe your encounter will be the next one we feature on the deep dive. And don't forget to follow our channel for more explorations into the mysteries of the world around us.
Yes, definitely follow us, and thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the paranormal side of McDonald's. It's been a truly fascinating and slightly unsettling journey.
It has. And remember, folks, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, especially when it comes to the side of fries.
Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and maybe think twice before you step into that play place.